So about 2 weeks ago, I posted a short where I show how I load 40 grains of black powder in a modern 45 Colt case. And I got hundreds of comments from people that apparently missed that my channel name is Everything Black Powder. In the title, it says Black Powder 45 Colt, and I hold the cartridge up and say, this is 40 grains of my homemade alder buckthorn black powder. They missed all of that. And I got hundreds of comments from people that were saying, that's a compressed load. It's going to blow your gun up. It's going to blow your hand off. It's going to unravel the space-time continuum.
Granted, that's a worst-case scenario.
What this really did is make me realize how people don't understand black powder cartridge. And in fact, I don't think they understand black powder at all, really. Because there are a lot of people that know how to reload, and people have been reloading with smokeless for a little over 100 years now. And black powder is, I suppose you could call it, obsolete, which is fine. For those who don't understand, black powder is very simple. It's also very safe. In fact, you can't put enough black powder in any case to have an overpressure issue and break your gun, shell your gun out, or anything like that. It physically won't happen. Now, there might be somebody that's going, well, the Walker cylinders exploded back in the 1840s. Yes, those are made of wrought iron. They were not made of steel. They were made of wrought iron, and it was a 60 grain charge. So that's pretty hefty. With any even relatively modern steels, we don't have that problem, especially with cartridges. Now, I think most people don't understand that they ever loaded black powder in cartridges. I think a lot of people don't know that. In fact, I have a story. Some years ago, when I got my 1887 Winchester all put together and operating, I loaded up some black powder 10 gauge. And it was miserable hot, like 117, like it is right now. And I didn't want to go outside to shoot it, but a buddy of mine was going uptown to an indoor range. And I looked on their website and it said no muzzle loading, absolutely no muzzle loading. Well, okay, it's not a muzzle loader, but it's black powder. Now, I figured that's what they meant, was no black powder. But instead of just showing up and getting kicked out after putting a couple rounds through it, I called them. And I talked to somebody and I said, hey, look, I have an 1887 Winchester. It's a black powder cartridge. And he goes, there's no such thing. Yes, there is such thing. That when this firearm was made, that was the only propellant available was black powder. Nope, black powder is for muzzle loading. Okay, look, if the answer's no, it's fine. And he goes, look, I'm going to hand you off to somebody else. So he hands the phone to somebody else. This guy says the same thing. I said, look, I explained the whole thing. Black powder you can't put black powder in a cartridge. I had two people tell me that. And finally, they put me on the phone to the boss, the guy that owns this shooting range. And he says, what's going on, man? How can I help you? And I said, look, I have this firearm. I gave him the whole spiel. And he says, no, he goes, there's no black powder allowed. I said, okay, that's what I thought. No problem. He said, they had to get me to tell you that? And I said, I'm sorry, man. I talked to two other guys. I said, hey, I have a black powder cartridge. They both told me that there's no such thing. Now, trust me, as much as I love black powder stuff, I will be the first person to tell you that smokeless outperforms black powder in just about every regard, okay? There's a reason why people have been running smokeless for the last, 120-ish years. It works really well. So just know and understand that, you're not going to get around smokeless being better. But for the people that don't know about black powder cartridge, there are a few cool things about black powder cartridge. One, black powder in containment burns from one end of the cartridge to the other, from the primer end all the way out. It will burn. Where smokeless explodes, which is interesting because in open air, if you were to pour some black powder on the ground and light it, it whoosh, looks like it explodes. Where if you pour smokeless on the ground and light it, it just burns. It's the opposite in a cartridge. Now, when you hear these people, these hundreds of comments that keep saying things like, you're going to have an overpressure load, that's super uber dangerous. Well, what they're talking about is smokeless, because when you compress smokeless, when there's no airspace in a cartridge loaded with nitrocellulose smokeless powder, it is rather dangerous. If you were to look at charts versus black powder rounds and smokeless rounds, Black powder is a nice even curve all the way out, where smokeless has a big spike because it explodes and propels the bullet that way, where black powder burns from one end of the cartridge to the other, propelling the bullet out of the chamber, down the barrel, and so on. Again, black powder is about as safe as it gets when it comes to reloading a cartridge. Now, don't let the everything black powder name fool you. I load plenty of smokeless, pistol, rifle, intermediate cartridges, all of that. I don't show a lot of it here because I like doing black powder stuff, and I do black powder stuff on the channel. The name is Everything Black Powder. So, don't be mistaken. I load plenty of smokeless stuff. So, again, I don't know how to make it more clear, because I responded to hundreds of these comments saying, hey, look, it's black powder, everything's fine, okay, no worries. And there were several people that said, well, you didn't make that very clear, man. You know, you should have made that more clear. Okay, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll get a giant flashing neon sign that says, this is black powder. And when I'm doing black powder stuff, like I do 90% of the time, I'll just click the thing, turn it on, so it'll say black powder behind me. How about that? Would that be better? Because apparently the channel name, the title, and what I say in the video all don't count. That's not clear enough. Hundreds of comments like that. I mean, man, just wow. Wow. The other comments I got was about the scale that I use. The scale that I use right here is made by Hornady. I got, I don't know how many comments from people saying, I got that same scale at the head shop. You're measuring in grams, not grains, huh?
Hey, man. Am I driving okay?
No, that's not the case. Probably my favorite one that I got over and over again was something like, nothing says I'm a felon like being into black powder. Okay, whatever you do, don't look at any of my other videos where 50% of them are cartridge weapons, but that's funny, I like that. Another comment that I got over and over again were from a lot of people that kept saying, black powder is measured in volume, not weight. The way black powder is made when it is compressed is these outfits, the commercial outfits, compress it to a certain point to where in 3F, it's a little different with 1 and 2F and even 4, but with 3F, when you weigh out 40 grains, not grams, and pour it into a volumetric measure at 40 grains, you'll see it's within a grain or two. It's very, very close. So for the people that keep saying black powder is only measured in volume, that is incorrect. You can measure black powder in weight just the same as in volume. Now, typically when you're out shooting in the pasture, you're using a volumetric measure for a muzzle loader. But there are plenty of people that weigh their charges for their muzzle loader just the same. I know it's very popular with the north-south skirmish guys. Those guys do it all the time. They'll have a pre-weighed charge in a glass tube or something, so they have the most consistency. Because when you're using a volumetric measure, you can get a little bit more, a little bit less by a grain or two. So let me show you what I mean. We'll fire up our scale here. So this is 40 grains. See, 40. This is Swiss 3F. Just swipe it off there. And then we will pour it right in there. I know, wouldn't you know? 40 grains. Another thing that I've noticed here over the last couple weeks, and I've heard other people talk about this too, is the shorts just taken off. I mean, in a week, this one short of the 40 grain black powder load, and yes, it's a black powder load, in case anybody didn't catch that, it's a black powder load. But where's my sign? Anyway, it got, at the time I'm filming this, it's just under 1.2 million views, which is unfreaking real. I don't have any idea how that happened. So I don't know who's in charge of the algorithm over there, but things have changed. Because my normal videos that would get, you know, a particular amount of views every 48 hours are down like 70%. And all of my shorts, which, you know, some of them are 6-8 months old, all of a sudden are getting, you know, all these views, you know, 2 of them in particular, my backwards shot and the 40 grain load, you know, they're just taking off, and I have no idea why. So I don't know what the honchos over at YouTube are doing. I don't know what the deal is, but you know, I've gained like I'm almost 5,000 subscribers in the last week, which is again unfreaking real. But if you are one of the new people and you missed that I do black powder stuff, just be forewarned, I do a lot of black powder stuff. Primarily what I do here is black powder stuff. The backward shot too, I've gotten plenty of comments about that. How, you know, there are people that saying, you know, oh, the sound from, you know, the Marine drill instructor and your sound is the same. You dubbed the sounds. Look, there were 5 people watching me that did that shot. I did it on the first try. That's why everyone was cheering, because it was so cool. Then there's people that say, oh, well, anybody could do that. Well, great. Let's see it. Go off and do it. And then there's the gun Karens that have to tell me that doing a stunt like that is completely unsafe, gives firearm owners a bad name, and so on and so forth. I swear. Fucking fuds, man. Like, first off, the AFT doesn't even qualify a muzzleloader as a firearm in the first place. Second, I'm pointing it downrange, even though my face not be pointing downrange. Like, my God, man, come on. Like, you ever watch any Bob Munden videos or the old ones from with Annie Oakley shooting backward? Do you leave comments on their shit too, saying like, this is totally unsafe and give firearm owners a bad name? Dude, come on now. I really did try to respond to all of these comments, but I mean, it's up to like 2,000 comments. It got to the point where, you know, my phone was dinging every 30 seconds, and every time I look at it, oh, you have 83 notifications, you have 105 notifications. It's like, oh, lordy, man. I'm sorry. I really do make a conscious effort to answer any legitimate question. I really try to do that. So if you have if you have a question on one of those videos that I didn't answer, I'm sorry. I would recommend asking me a question on one of my long, full-length videos, because I will answer it to the best of my ability there. But those 2 shorts that just took off like that, I just can't get to them. And it got to the point where I was just like, I'm sorry, man, I just can't.
I can't. I simply can't.
I think that's pretty much it. So, as usual, if you thought this video didn't suck, do me a favor and hit the like button and consider subscribing. And if you did think it sucked, well, then go make your own damn video.